Man, I cannot believe you opened with MD doing the no second gear shift shit.
You bet.
He
Oh,
always
wow.
does that. It's like every show.
Oh, yeah. You got to. What's going on, y'all? It is Wednesday night. Another episode of the Motorsports Almanac with our first motorsports guest that we've had on the show, Mr. Joe Sylvester, former driver of the Bad Habit monster truck that broke the speed record at Norwalk, Ohio, Dragway. And Joe, thank you so much for taking time out of your night to join us.
Yeah, no problem, man. My pleasure.
So, kind of address the elephant in the room there. Your retirement kind of came out of nowhere, I'd say, because I remember I was watching a YouTube channel that talks about monster truck news specifically, and they said you had retired.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's for those that are close to me, it's kind of something that's been a lot of, deeply thought about for a long time. Just the whole past year pretty much. And it just got to the point where it was just the right timing. I'm ready to move on to other things in my life, other business opportunities that I have going on. I'm also growing my Outlaw Monster Truck Drags series, trying to do something different for the sport, bring back some serious, legitimate racing and competition. And I've accomplished everything that I set out to do with monster trucks. Those speed record right there is the latest thing that we've done. This year, that was last year. This year, I drag raced a jet car, obviously the world record jump. A lot of racing wins, freestyle wins. The Young Guns Championship in Las Vegas. So I really felt like I've, was pretty satisfied with everything that I've done so far in the sport. We've traveled many, many miles. I've seen every state. I've seen other countries. I've made awesome fans and friends along the way. So I can't really ask for too much more. I'm not getting out of racing totally. I'll never quit racing till the day I die. Just taking a little bit of a hiatus right now and going to focus on some business and some investment, properties that I have with my family and some real estate things that I have in the works, and then get back into racing. I haven't decided really what I'm going to do. I've got some ideas of what I want to do. There's a lot of things I like, things that I haven't done, and things that I have done already. But this next year, probably going to be a lot more bicycle racing than anything.
I gotcha. That's really cool. So I have to ask, because of where Wyatt and I and Charles too, we all come from, how much do you know? Because this was one of the main ways that you and I really got to talking, was the toter that you had bought for to haul Bad Habit around it.
Mm-hmm.
Was the old bootlegger.
Yep.
Motor. And do you know a ton about pulling or anything like that?
I know enough that just for, going to different events. I live in Canfield, 3 miles from the fairgrounds. So obviously the NTPA, the pool that goes there at our fair every year is massive. And then doing racing monster trucks for 18 years, I've been to my fair share of tractor pull events. When we do fairs in the summertime, a lot of times tractor pull events would be going on either the night before or the night after. And then we kind of cross paths, where we're in between shows and stuff like that. So, and I know known quite a few people over the years that have done it. Obviously, being from Ohio, there's plenty of people around here that do it. They do things that are really big around here, drag racing and tractor pulling. And so it's kind of hard to be in motorsports in my area and not know somebody that's into tractor pulling or know a little bit about it. I don't know a whole lot about all the different classes and stuff like that. I mean, I know like pro stock tractors, and I know unlimited modifieds and mini modifieds, which I think are really cool. The little blown alcohol cars. But the bootlegger guys, I knew that I wanted a long hood Pete toter home. That's all I've driven for a long time. I've built custom hot rod Pete's, and there was just no going back to a Detroit or a Mercedes powered auto shift Freightliner to pull 90,000 pounds down the highway.
You picked a good one.
Well, it was really the only one even available. They're like unicorns, a long hood Pete with a cat under the hood. That's set up with a fifth wheel to pull a semi trailer and actually move some weight down the road. And the guys that have them ain't selling them, but most guys that have them are in tractor pulling, maybe a couple guys in monster trucks, but that's about it. Cause we're really the only two motorsports that need something like that move that kind of weight. And I called RJ Simon, And because people were like, okay, this is the guy, he buys and sells a lot, so he's the guy to talk to, see if he's got anything. And when I messaged him, he's like, this is the only one I've got, and he sent me a picture of it, and I knew right away what it was because I've seen it on the internet and everything. And I was like, man, it's like, he's like, I do have a company that finances it. I'm like, sold. So I didn't even see much of anything about it. I just knew that it was taken care of. I ended up linking together with Steve Neat, who's the guy who used to drive it for the bootlegger team. And we've communicated a lot over the past year. He's come to see me perform at monster truck shows. And so I kind of know the whole history of that rig. And, that I look at it, we actually, I have it up for sale right now. Just because I don't have a use for it right now without racing. I hate to just have it sitting in my shop,
That's fair.
But it's definitely, a dream rig for sure. And it pains me to let it go. But like I said, I just don't have a use for it right now. But I just kind of look at it as another achievement in my racing career. When I first started, when I was 22 years old, I had a piece of shit, old Kenworth with a 48-foot trailer. The whole rig and trailer setup was maybe worth $10,000. I mean, none of the gauges worked in the rig, including the fuel gauge and the speedometer. I had to use a GPS as a speedometer. I had to use a wooden stick to see where my fuel was at. And that's what I started with when I was 22. So I always dreamed about owning something like what I have now. So I just kind of look at it as, okay, I made it. I achieved getting my dream rig. So now it's unfortunately just don't have a use for it.
Now that you made it, though, then you've got that dream rig. How is it to live with the short stacks that are on it versus having it be like underbody exhaust?
Hey, man, if you want to drive something like that, it's a price to pay. It's going to be loud.
Right.
Everything I drive is loud. Everything I do is loud. And it's not terrible inside. I've had trucks with stacks that were all the way up in the air be just as loud. It has a small resonator right before the stacks, so it kind of takes that drone out. Like when you're just cruising along at the same RPM for a long time, it'll be like a drone in your ear. It kind of takes that away. But we got a killer kicker sound system in that thing with a subwoofer and everything, so I just crank that way up. And whoever's in the passenger seat still manages to fall asleep all the time, and it's always me staying awake driving. But it's definitely loud. And when the windows are down, my crew guy has an Apple Watch, and it tells him when he's exposed to dangerous levels of noise. And we were going down a massive 4-mile hill, and the Jakes were just screaming, and it was like 130 decibels with the windows down.
Wow. Oh Lord.
But the inside of the cab is all dynamated, so when the windows are up, it's not bad at all. Like you could carry a conversation with whoever's next to you, and it's not bad.
That's the pinnacle of the sport, and that's where you certainly strove to get to. But you mentioned where you came from. Give us an insight and a window into where does the motivation come from as a 22-year-old where you just don't give a shit. You just have this dream and you want to get there. What, how do you swat away the doubts? How do you swat away the insecurities and just say, I don't care what anybody thinks, I'm doing this?
Yeah, man, it's kind of always been my mentality since I was a kid. From the time I was 12 years old, I grew up racing BMX and motocross, and I went to schools that typical stick and ball sports were what was popular. I was a complete outsider. By the time I was 16, I was hot rodding cars and jacking up trucks, and still racing motocross and mountain bikes and stuff. So I was kind of always just doing my own thing. Didn't really give a damn what anybody else did. I did what I enjoyed, and so this was just kind of another thing. I was racing downhill mountain bikes and riding freestyle motocross in my late teens and early 20s, and just had a lot of
downhill mountain bikes. Where are you from?
I'm from Ohio, and now
outside of Gravel-Rama.
Well, nowadays there's actually a lot of stuff between Ohio, PA, West Virginia,
Nice.
And like next weekend we're going down to Knoxville, Tennessee, which isn't too terribly far, for some amazing riding. Everything me and my crew does is more downhill oriented jumps and everything. But back when I was a kid, there really wasn't anything. What kind of bike?
Yeah.
My daily driver is a Yeti SB120, and then
Yeti,
I've
man.
got
Good man.
Yeah, dude, I love it. I built it up the way I wanted, and profile elite crank set on it, and Hope brakes and stuff, and all Fox suspension. It's an amazing bike for the majority of the riding that we do. It's a super aggressive geometry. It's their newest bike. But it's not even close to a cross country bike, but it's not as aggressive. Like I have an enduro bike too, and it's way easier to climb than my enduro bike. My enduro bike's like 160. It's an intense carbine. So that bike for everything we do locally is just way overkill, and it's heavy, so I've got that.
I could never ride what you have around here. It's just, it doesn't work.
Where are you guys at?
I'm in Southeast Michigan, and we've got some hills, but we don't have anything that's like downhill. So my mount's a Cannondale Flash, and it's cross country setup.
I've got a cross country bike too, and I do it for just if I'm doing some just major single track stuff that's just flat, or just a lot of climbing and stuff like that. Yeah. And I also got it for my wife to ride too. It's actually Diamond Bikes. It's called their Rock Hard. It's a hardtail, full carbon, American made carbon frame. They make my triathlon bike that I have too, and they just started getting into mountain bikes.
We're dealing with an athlete, boys. This guy's legit. This guy's legit.
I literally just got in from a ride. The same thing with last night. I just got in from a ride before the podcast tonight. I just got in from a ride, ate some dinner real quick, cleaned up and sat down. That's what I love it. I did it from the time I was a kid. Read BMX too. I want to get back into racing BMX a little bit next year, but I've got a GT.
Man, my own heart. I want a dirt jump bike again so bad.
I've got a GT La Bamba that I built up a couple years ago that I ride, and we're fortunate in the wintertime. We have Ray's indoor mountain bike park up in Cleveland, and so it's only an hour away. So when the weather's crap, we ride there, every week.
Nice.
And it's set up like BMX and mountain biking, dirt jumping. It's a little bit of everything. So a dirt jumper is the perfect bike for there. I've got my Diamond cross country bike, and I've got my Diamond triathlon bike.
I let go of my standard Stronger Than All. It was on Pergrin high flange 48 spoke wheels. Like it was bomb proof. It was heavy, like 35 pounds for a BMX.
They were strong, man.
And,
they were strong.
Man, I am so pissed at myself for letting that go.
Standard's still rocking it, man. A lot of my buddies, I grew up, I raced BMX. I didn't do a lot of freestyle, but all my buddies are all like former BMX freestyle, like semi-pro pros. Like my one buddy Joe used to own a skate park called Section 8 here in Ohio, so they know all the guys from Standard and everything. Nice. And it's a pretty small community. But one of my friends that is part of our normal riding crew, she is the U.S. Olympic team BMX coach, and she's a ripper, man. Her name's Nina. She's a hell of a rider. She's getting on big bikes now too. That's awesome. So back to when I was, when I started, a lot of injuries with racing downhill mountain bikes, obviously, a lot of injuries with freestyle motocross. And I'm not talking a broken finger or a stub toe or even a broken arm. I'm talking severe internal injuries, internal bleeding, severe head trauma, ICU visits, 2 broken backs. So it was at a point in my life where I was like, I think I need a career change. Like I had my goals set. I wanted to make it to X Games one day. Just too many injuries. It was just, I had to make a decision. I was either going to wind up in a wheelchair or a casket. So I was like, I always had jacked up trucks, and I was always going to monster truck events, and I was doing FMX at monster truck events. So I got to know some people, and I was like, this is pretty cool. I can get crazy with a roll cage around me. So I started working around the industry, and everybody that wants to know how to get into monster trucks that asks me this on social media all the time, I'm going to tell you right now how to do it. Everybody's, everybody's looking for that. Oh, just call this guy and he'll put you in the driver's seat. No. I may even know a few people that could do something like that. One, they're probably not going to hire anybody just off the street. And 2, that's not how I did it. So that's not the blueprint I'm going to give anybody else to do it. There's no easy way. If you want to do it, if you really want to drive a monster truck, it comes with a lot of sacrifice and a lot of hard work. So I worked around the industry for a couple of years. I drove a ride truck for Randy Moore out of Tennessee with War Wizard.
Really?
I was part of his crew when he did the land speed record back then, and he did 87 miles an hour, I think he did. I was with him when he did that. And then I went on to work for Paul Schaefer, and I crewed on Barefoot and stuff like that when Paul owned all those trucks. And Paul offered me a position to be a driver, but at the time I was working in construction, making good money, and I was actually a union carpenter by trade. I was 21 years old, and it wasn't very good pay. And I had to move to Indiana, and I was like, Paul, I appreciate the offer, but I think I'm going to pass. So, but I had the bug, I had it in my head that I was going to do this. So I went to my dad and I said, listen, how can I do this? My dad's always been in business. My family had a construction company. I grew up never really working for anyone except for my dad and myself. I started my first business when I was 17 years old. It was called Hardcore Customs, and I built custom race quads, dirt bikes, and I did lift kits on trucks. So that was my first business. And but he's like, well, see if you could borrow money from the bank. I'm like, borrow money from the bank, like get a loan, like a business loan on a monster truck? He's like, well, you know how to do a business plan. You want to, just propose it to them and see what they say. So I put together a 60-page long business plan for a monster truck team as a legitimate business. And I went to a guy whose truck I wanted to buy that was in a reasonable price range: truck, trailer, tools, spare parts, even some drums of methanol, and the monster truck, obviously. And I showed the bank that, hey, this guy is out there making money with this. This is what I'm going to do, and this is how I'm going to make money. And I went to promoters, and I got promoters to sign and say, yes, if Joe has a truck, we'll book him at shows. And I put together a whole plan, and I got a loan to start my business, to start Joe Sylvester Motorsports at 22 years old. And fortunately, I was still living at home. I didn't have any debt. I wasn't going to college. I sold everything that I had to go monster truck. And I had a bitchin' jacked up truck with 14 inches of lift. It was a newer, it was not newer Chevy. I sold the Chevy, and I had an F350, actually. Beautiful 97 OBS F350 with 30,000 miles on it. Boggers, just a super, super clean truck. Sold that. So I was racing shifter carts, sold my shifter cart. I had a dirt bike and two race quads, sold it all. And I said, I'm going monster trucking. So I gave up everything to chase the dream of, becoming a professional monster truck driver and going out and thrilling people all over the country. I went to truck driving school, got my CDL so I could drive the rig, and just started going at it, man. I didn't know a whole hell of a lot about it. I didn't know how to weld when I first started. Well, I knew how to weld, but I knew how to weld with a stick welder. So actually some of the stuff on my first truck was actually stick welded on my chassis, on my axle housings, because it was the only thing I knew how to do. And the only thing I had was this old piece of crap Lincoln Tombstone welder, and that I think somebody gave me. And I knew enough about suspension from racing quads that I kind of understood suspension setup a little bit. I didn't know anything about blown alcohol motors. I didn't know anything about how to tear an axle apart or planetaries. I just knew this is what I wanted to do. So I just learned as I went, and I took advice from people that had been in the sport for a long time. And I would get advice from 3 people, and I would say, okay, this makes sense. This makes sense. This doesn't make sense. And kind of formulate my own opinion of what I wanted to do. And just learned, and every bit of money that I made with the truck went back into the truck. And believe me, there was times I was living on peanut butter and jelly and barely had enough money to put fuel in my tank to get to the next show. Plenty of more often than not. I had motors blowing up. I had transmissions blowing. I had, just you name it. I'd been through problems with the rig. So it was a lot of stuff that happened in a short amount of time, and you basically live 2 years for every normal person's one. But you know what? I just turned 40. I'm now retiring after 18 years of doing it. And I wouldn't trade any of it. When I was in my 20s, and some other people that were this, same age as me were going to college and, trying to figure out how to buy a house and, trying to fit this mold of what, the typical, I guess, playbook of life is. And I was out partying and having a good time. And, I didn't care that I wasn't really making much money. As long as I had enough money to feed myself and feed my dog and get down the road and beat on my truck some more, I was stoked. I got to travel, see a lot of things, meet a lot of people, and just had a damn good time, man.
If I'm reading something into something you said earlier that is out of place, feel free to correct me, and that's fine. You talk about your progression through the career of running a monster truck, and I think that's something that's certainly relatable to a lot of people to understand. Like, hey, I've got a understanding of welding, maybe I've got some mechanical knowledge, and a desire to go race. You mentioned something about investment properties and doing something with that. What were you doing in the background to make sure you had a life? Right, that it wasn't just racing. Was it all that, or were you doing something in the background that allowed you to live?
Nope. For the past 18 years of my life, it's just been racing. Whether it was monster trucks, short course off road, sprint cars, the race car has always been my primary source of income. I made money through merchandise sales, through sponsorships, race winnings, show money. You have to get creative sometimes. The more you can do yourself, the better. And whenever I was when I was racing off road and racing cars, I always had a rig. So during the week, I would take jobs as an independent trucker. I would go do flatbed work, stuff like that. Over the years, I have learned how to weld and fabricate pretty well. So I have a welding shop. And there was a time when I did a lot of welding for customers as well. I haven't for a while. I'm about to start that back up again. But I can build monster truck parts. I can build race car parts. I can fix your combine. I'm pretty versatile, and thanks to Lincoln Electric, I went to their welding school. And I've always had top of the line welding equipment from probably my third year in the business. When they saw that I built my own truck, I had to use somebody else's welder, but I built my own truck, and they saw that, and they knew that I was only an hour away from them. They've become one of my biggest sponsors and one of my longest term sponsors that I've had. And I still have a great relationship with them to this day. And they've allowed me to be able to go and build the things that I wanted. But no, I never had anything else. And that's what's difficult too about our sport now is when I started, there was a lot of guys that were making their living with the monster truck. You weren't expected to go out there and break all four wheels off and do backflips. You didn't need a truck that cost $250,000 with another $100,000 worth of spares in the trailer to go and get paid $4,000 to $5,000 for a show and tear up $7,000 worth of shit, and then put $1,000 worth of fuel in the semi, pay your crew guy. So back then it was a lot easier to make a living, and it's just gotten harder and harder and harder. And without any big sponsors, it's nearly impossible to make a decent living, especially as I'm, getting a little bit older. The injuries that I had previous to monster trucks are compounded tenfold at this point now because of the monster truck.
You put a roll cage around you, but now you're getting compression fractures and all the other stuff because now you don't move.
They're very violent. No matter what anybody tells you, they hurt. And when it doesn't hurt, you just push the truck that much harder, and then it eventually does hurt. But it's literally like being in a car crash every weekend. I've wrecked everything else that I've raced, from off-road trucks to late models to sprint cars, and jumping a monster truck through the air and slamming into the ground feels pretty much just like crashing a car into a wall. And we do it multiple times. Actually, ISP Seats did G-force test meters on the seat of a monster truck and found that the same impact a NASCAR driver gets when they hit the wall, I think it was 120 or 130 miles an hour, we experienced that same type of impact 6 to 7 times during one freestyle run.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, you're pretty sore, and all the injuries that I had to my body previously have now gotten a lot worse, to where I can't even drive the rig down the road for more than a few hours. And I'm just in so much discomfort and pain because I've got problems with my sciatic nerve and my lower back, my neck. So it was a lot of things that compounded into the decision. So, but no, and trying to make a living at it. Like I said, I'm going to get back into racing at some point, but after I have fine-tuned my business portfolio that will be paying my bills and putting food on my table. And then I could go race and not have to worry about the race car being my only source of income and putting food on my table.
I want to continue with the monster truck part, but I want to bring it back to the safety thing for a second with your partnership with ISP. Knowing that we are coming from the angle of sled pulling as much as the three of us are, How much is there for us to learn as a sport about body control within a roll cage, and also about even more specifically with the head and
Yeah, you read my mind.
managing that and stuff that we don't know, ignore, cowboy up to, and say we don't need it, which is, I believe, is a bunch of bullshit. And I think you're going to educate us on this idea that there is a need for something there, that just tubes of chromoly are great when it rolls over, but it's not going to protect you from being hurt.
Yeah, I'm sure if that sled comes and slams the back of the tractor too, it's like getting rear-ended by a semi and a Volkswagen. So
it feels great.
Yeah, but
it does. It depends on your sled too. I mean, there's some sleds that are more
Yeah.
forgiving than others, but some are just like it's a car crash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would say there's a lot that you could learn. There's other sports that have learned from what we do too. Like Chris, rest in peace, from ISP, was the man. He was the guy, and he spent a lot of time really researching and testing and understanding what we did, as he did every sport that he built seats for. Like I'm sitting in one of his dirt late model seats right now that he built me. But he's actually, sat down with, organizations like NASA and talked about G forces and the strain on the body and the way your body sits and absorbs things, the way your seat's positioned, and the way you use the lumbar on your back on impacts instead of something straight up and down. There's a lot of things that went into what he's done. He actually built the first aluminum seat that passed the certifications for NASCAR. Before that, they were all carbon fiber and stuff. And he built the first seat that passed the modern day NASCAR certifications. And I think, if I remember correctly, there was a lot of other industries, like from NHRA to NASCAR to IRL, that were listening to Chris's experience with monster trucks, because the race car driver only uses their safety equipment when they crash. A tractor puller only uses their safety equipment when they crash. We use it on every goddamn hit, every single night, every single weekend. So we have to be on point. Our stuff has to be right. And if it's not, you're going to knock yourself out. You're going to really, really injure your neck or your back, your shoulders. And it's about containing your entire body. My seat wraps around my seat. If it's sitting on the ground, I could actually sit in it, stand up and walk around and wear it like a suit. That's how tight it fits me. Yes. Just like the seat I'm sitting in right now. See how it's got ribs on it?
Yep.
I actually have to turn sideways to get in and out of this thing. And when I sit in it, like it holds your whole body. So it's not just a matter of containing your head, because if your head's right here, but your body goes that way, what good did you do your neck and your head? You have to contain your entire body, from your shoulders to your chest to your hips. And so it all works as one. I'm sure there's other good seat manufacturers out there. LaJoy, Butler. I've trusted ISP for a long, long time, but I trusted Chris Van Gilder. And unfortunately he passed away earlier this year. I don't know much about where the company is right now without him. I know he sold the company a year or two ago, but he was still kind of hands-on. And now without him, I don't know. Like, I was at the point where I was really happy that I don't need a seat right now. But I told Chris, I said, man, if I get to a point where I need a seat, I said, you let me know what materials we need, and you could come to my shop and use my welders and build it for me. I said, because I don't trust anybody else to build my seat. We worked very, very closely together over the years too. He'd be the first phone call I'd get on a Sunday morning if I crashed on Saturday night. When I crashed practicing for my very first world record jump, he called me and he said, change the harnesses. He goes, I saw the in cab, change the harnesses. You hit so hard, you actually stretched the webbing in your harnesses. And it made sense, because actually every single time a truck cartwheeled and hit the ground, I felt myself getting looser in the seat. And it was actually the harnesses actually stretched. I hit so hard. But Chris he really, really cared about everybody that he worked with.
What are you wearing for neck restraint? Is it the full yoke style Hans, or is it I call it the Hutchins half a Hans?
Yeah.
It's more strap and
the hybrid.
The hybrid. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot of them, out there. It really depends on driver preference. I've worn a Hans since I started racing with a roll cage around me. And Chris, he was like, I know you like your Hans, but I think this is a little bit better. I think you should try this. I think it was the Simpson hybrid or
the hybrid.
R3 or whatever it was. You wear it, and it's like a backpack and then it straps around you this way. I wore it for hot laps when I was racing Dura late models. I came off the track and I said, get this thing off me and put it up for sale. And Racing John, give me my Hans back. I just didn't feel comfortable with it. Not to say that it wouldn't work. I wasn't comfortable with it. So I've got two different Hans devices. I have one that I use for the monster truck because we set ours up so tight that you can't move your head. You can have no head movement whatsoever. When we're strapped in, the only thing you can move are your eyes, because if your head moves even this much, you'll destroy your neck. You'll knock yourself out. You'll get slammed in the back of your head. So I have one that's set up for the monster truck, and I have one that's set up for racing cars.
And that's the thing I look at in terms of sled pulling. It's not so much the fore or aft, because on our best day, like the sled puller's Superman hook is 40 miles an hour. It's not that fast, but we do get out of shape really bad side to side, and it's the lateral. And so I'm always looking for what's the better in the lateral, because there's guys who've been knocked out stone cold in a cage. The tractor never turned over.
Yeah, I would say that you would want a cage with a head restraint built into it.
Yes.
So that when you put your head back, your head is tight, and you have no side to side movement whatsoever. Because when you're in a tractor, you don't need to turn your head side to side at all, right? No. You're looking ahead, and your peripheral, you can see anything that you need to. So what do you need all that extra space inside?
You're getting backed into the sled, and I see Shane making faces about it, but like, you're getting backed into the sled, dude. Yeah. You don't need to look to your side. You don't. You're looking forward, and that's it.
I back myself in, so.
But you don't need to.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to argue about, what you can and can't see when your head is that tight, we perform inside of hockey arenas with a truck that's 13 foot wide and 1,700 horsepower, and we spin donuts so fast that we can't even see where we're going. You deal with it. You learn. And the more you're in it, the more comfortable you get. Anybody will tell you the first time they strapped in one, or anybody who's worn a Hans device for the first time, they feel claustrophobic, or anytime they're in a full containment seat, they feel claustrophobic, but they know it's the proper thing. So you get used to it. Now for me, it's like, it's as comfortable as driving my car down the road. I'm used to it. I can see everything I need to see. And your range of vision just naturally will broaden the more you do it.
Boys, you've generously allowed me to hijack this entire interview. I turn it back to you.
You kind of just keep going, dude. I'm just sitting here enjoying this because this is exactly what I wanted it to be. Whenever we got
first half, you're talking about bikes for a little bit. I'm like, I don't ride bikes very often, so the question about safety there, I think we all just had it. I just didn't know you have the words and how to ask it correctly.
Oh, I was gonna ask it.
I'm just full of shit. Let's be honest. I'm full of shit. Let's be clear. I'm an announcer. I'm full of crap. So I make it up as I go along. No, not to give Joe any sort of false notions that I'm some super expert, because no.
No, I think we all had that question. It's just how should we ask? And I think going forward I think, Joe, you've ever watched any crashes of what's happened in our sport, and he's gonna raise his hand.
Yeah, it looks like it could get pretty bad.
Yeah. You've probably seen me have mine. Let's be honest. In one of the videos, I had an accident a couple of years ago, but we've been fine since.
I think the thing I was just gonna ask, Charles, you asked it too, is where we go from here. What do we? Because there's some guys they just don't want to be claustrophobic like that. Depends on what class you're in. Depends on how your roll cage is built. Depends on the seat you got, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So
and we saw that back, going back 23, 24 years now, that the roll cage rule's been a thing, and the guys came out with these big lacrosse stick contraptions on their tractors that were just giant so that they didn't hit the pipes. And I think we've all learned now that not only is that heavy, so it's weight where you don't want it, but we've learned that it's better to be tight, but we have not learned that you need to have something that pads you from those pipes when you get into them. And my last sled pull of this year, we had a pro stock driver who pinballed in his cage, and I had to ask him on Sunday morning, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, but that hurt." So I mean, it's like we're learning, but it's the brute force approach to learning, and I don't approve of that. I think we can be smarter. I've been chewed out over the years for being an advocate for containment seats. So, oh, it's a NASCAR thing. We don't need that in sled pulling. Bullshit. You need it because it's going to save your ass, and it's going to save your ass from concussion protocols. It's going to save you from internal bleeding. It's going to save you from a lot of problems that you are too stupid or too stubborn to acknowledge that it can get you.
Oh, trust me. I think every motorsport has gone through the same thing. Oh, we don't need that. We don't need that.
Yeah.
We don't need that. Or
Yep.
we don't want that. I've been fine for years. I don't even need a neck collar. Well, but it comes down to the sanctioning bodies understanding and realizing the importance of it and mandating it. And then it comes down to, okay, if you're going to run in this series, you got to have this. If not, see you later.
So here's a question I want to ask you, because you're from a different side of the motorsport world. Guys will have no problem on our side of the world. Like if there's a new turbocharger that's going to gain them 50 horsepower, but it's going to cost them $10,000, they'll fork out the cash for it. They'll put it on credit to get one. But if it means buying a $2,000 seat that's going to save their neck, oh, I don't need that.
Yeah.
Like, how do you overcome that objection?
That's been also every other motorsport. And I've been in a lot of them, sprint cars. I was in it at a point where, okay, it's been going on for long enough. It's, if not one of the most dangerous forms of motorsports. But when I got into short course off road, I was right at the cusp of when they mandated full containment seats and some sort of head and neck restraint device. And they just showed everybody at like banquets and things like that. Okay, here's some in-cab of a guy that crashed in a full containment seat wearing a Hans device. Can you tell when he's upside down just by looking at him? Only thing you can see is that his belts are flinging up. And here's a guy in a beard suspension seat, flopping around like a fish, completely knocked out cold. His arms are flopping around. It's actually gruesome. Yeah. And you have to kind of get that kind of content, because unfortunately most people, especially racers, they can't visualize what could happen, and they may go their entire 40-year career and never have an accident, or they could have something that could leave their life hanging by a thread, at a small town event or a big national caliber event. It could happen anywhere at any time. And I'm thankful that monster trucks have kind of instilled that portion of safety into me, that when I get in any race car, I make sure that I'm tight. Like when I was in my sprint car, I use the same harnesses that I used in the monster truck. We actually use a ratcheting lap belt. It's a 7-point harness, and the lap belts are ratcheting. And and I don't know many other sports that are using that, except for stunt pilots in airplanes like Red Bull Air Race and stuff like that. We actually have 1/4-inch ratchets and tighten ourselves down with the ratchets. I couldn't reach mine, so I had my wife come over and she would ratchet me down in the sprint car, because it's just where it was at. I couldn't get to it. It's definitely important. And I mean, like I said, I've crashed everything that I've raced, and I've walked away from every one of them.
If does this fit in your mind, the idea that if it's uncomfortable, it's comfortable, and if it hurts, it's safe?
Mine doesn't feel uncomfortable at this point. Like, your seat shouldn't be uncomfortable.
Well, no, I don't mean that. I mean how tight you get the seat belts.
I don't think every motorsport quite needs to get as aggressive as we do in monster trucks, because where we have one big hit in a freestyle, enough to kind of settle you in the seat and maybe loosen you up a little bit if you're not incredibly tight. That would be the equivalent to like a race car hitting a wall and then flipping over the catch fence.
Gotcha.
That's not going to keep happening repeatedly. Where in a monster truck, we're doing it multiple times throughout a 90-second run. So we crank ourselves down. Like I'll actually crank myself down in the seat, and I'll sit there and to where I can still breathe comfortably. And as it starts getting closer to my time to go, like one truck before me, two trucks before me, I give myself another crank, I get my shoulder harnesses nice and tight, my lap belts. And before I go, I crank it down to where it hurts, because in the first big jump I hit, I'm going to kind of settle just enough in the seat.
Yeah, it's going to loosen it again.
You know, plus your adrenaline's going, you don't feel it anymore. But I'll have marks where my Hans was. I'll have marks on my legs. Yeah, you gotta get yourself tight, man, because it's like, you know, if you were to get hit in the face by Mike Tyson, would you want his fist to be that close when he starts, or would you want him to wind up and then blast you in the face? That's the analogy you can use if you move inside your race car. That race car is Mike Tyson getting ready to knock your ass out. But if you're tight in your seat, he can only hit you from this far.
Yes. Perfect analogy.
Yeah. So, Joe, I really want to get into your time that you've spent in the monster truck world, because I first saw you whenever I was about 9 years old. I think you were in either Jacksonville or Tampa, Florida, doing a show with Monster Jam. You've literally been there you've been to the World Finals. You won, I think, one of the first Young Gun shootout, if not the first Young Gun shootout.
The second one, and I was the first independent, and that was the first year that they took the winner of the Young Guns and put them in the big show. So I was the first person to legitimately race my way into the World Finals, because now the way World Finals is, you're either in or you're out. It's on your schedule in December when you get your schedule for the next year. So it's not like you have to. Yeah, it's not like you have to perform to get there. It's on your schedule.
That series has changed quite a bit since like the beginning of it.
I mean, it's so much different now from whenever I was younger, because I remember you would see guys, because correct me if I'm wrong, but Stone Crusher, Gunslinger, Backdraft, Black Stallion, all of them were independent trucks then, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So it just seems like now whenever it comes to the World Finals, especially, and I mean, it's not. I'll be honest, to me, it doesn't feel as special anymore, because it's not in Las Vegas where its home always was. It's kind of more of a traveling deal.
Yeah,
I like it being in Nashville, absolutely, because I was about an hour away from my house. But
I'll tell you what, it was something about Vegas. You know, one, for me, I love Vegas. I love the town. I love the people. I've been going there since I was a little kid. I've got a lot of friends there. But that aside, as an entertainer, it's like you look at every major entertainer, like what's their pinnacle? Where's their biggest place they perform? Las Vegas, you know, big concerts, big musicians. They have residencies in Vegas. You know, Elvis had a residency in Las Vegas. Like Las Vegas is it's the entertainment capital of the world. So why not have your crown jewel event in Las Vegas? So that's one reason that I think that it should still be there, in my opinion. The second reason was that Sam Boyd Stadium, while it didn't have quite the seating capacity as some of these big football stadiums, it was big enough for a pretty good sized track. Plus they were able to utilize, you know, coming in from the outside of the stadium, and it had a huge field next to it for the pit party, where they would have over 100 trucks. They would pay people, you know, independents, just to come and do pit party, so that they had a ton of trucks for people to look at, because you got people flying in from all over the world. You want to give them a show the whole weekend, not to mention the fact people are flying in from all over the world. Las Vegas flights are the easiest to get from anywhere in the world. There's more restaurants and hotels in Las Vegas than any other city in America, pretty much. So, you know, I think there's a lot of reasons why it would make sense to be there. But I don't know. What do I know? That's my opinion.
And that was one of the things that I really liked about the Young Gun shootout, was that I felt like it really highlighted some of the independent guys a lot. I mean, obviously Titan comes to mind. Who was it? Rosalie Raymer. I think she got into the World Finals one year. I don't know if it was through Young Gun shootout, but I know she at least competed. And there were just so many of you guys there that, like, you guys weren't on TV week to week, every single solitary week that they were on Fox Sports 1 or Speed, whichever one it was at the time. But I just always thought that was really cool, and I really wish that they would go back to that.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely I don't know what their future plans are. It just seems like over the past 5 to 10 years, it's become less and less recognizable compared to what it was before. And I'm not quite sure why. I don't really know why they do things the way they do, but I'm not on the inside to really know.
Right. But
And
then
there's a differentiation in the show too. Like I know I go every couple of years here at Ford Field, and like anymore, it seems like the racing part is just perfunctory anymore.
Yeah.
Like
it's like an appetizer for freestyle. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to do away with in my series with the Outlaw Monster Truck Drags. Yes, we freestyle. Yes, it's going to be as legitimate as possible. It's not just going to be fan judging that don't know anything about what we do, and they think it's cool when you crash and Gravedigger's headlights light up red. I actually assign a panel of judges, just like when I was in freestyle motocross and BMX, the people that judged your performance were former athletes. They were former people that knew what it took to do what you were doing. They knew what it took to be in your shoes. So I try to bring in other racers, other OG monster truck guys, maybe a sponsor that's also involved in other forms of motorsports and understands a show when he sees one and understands racing and mechanics. Those are the kind of people that we appoint as judges. And then we give them each one category to judge based on what their background is and what their experience is. We give them a category of each freestyle to judge, and they have to judge it from 1 to 10. And we ideally like to have 4 judges total. So that's what I've found to be the most accurate and fair way to judge freestyle, is by assigning judges that really know what they're looking at. And then the racing, I try to build really aggressive tracks. I try to integrate, BMX and supercross style obstacles into a monster truck drag race track. And it's been working so far. People are really liking what we're doing. The drivers are having a good time. I had a good time driving them. And my mentality is, if the drivers are having a good time driving the track, the fans are going to have a good time watching it.
Because it makes it, if they enjoy it, they're going to put on that much better of a show for the fans to see.
Absolutely. And here's the thing with competition and racing. Freestyle is subjective. It's like art. It's based on whoever's judging it, if it was cool or not. Racing, it's cut and dry. You either win or you lose. And you get, guys out there and girls in any type of race vehicle, they want to win. So you build them a track that's going to allow them to get creative and really put on, just really, let their driving ability shine. You're going to see a show. You don't have to choreograph anything. You don't have to, and it's always going to be different. You don't know what's going to happen. Guys could crash, guys could do a double, guys could, make a triple out of something. It's gonna naturally progress and naturally become a good show because everybody wants to win.
Yeah. How do I set my truck up? Do I want the suspension to be soft? Do I want it to be sort of hard and turn a double into a triple? How do I want to attack a turn if I've got to be confronted with one? Am I going to attack it with rear steer or not? Am I just going to floor it around? How am I going to drive it? And the driving styles start to become a thing again, like they were. I mean, that was fun to watch a race driving style get applied where it mattered in terms of elapsed time. Not taking anything away from the freestyle, but there was a thing like, what is vehicle control and how are we going to define it? Is it racing? Is it the skills competition, which honestly, some of that's really sweet, or is it just freestyle where how hard can I throw it before I break my shit?
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's, freestyle is, it's 50% driver, 50% luck. A lot of times guys go out there and they throw caution to the wind because they don't give a damn and they wind up a hero. And if they roll over, sometimes they're still a hero, so it's the thing with freestyle is, and you go out in freestyle motocross or you go out in any other form of extreme sport, if you crash, you're generally not going to win. Okay. Monster trucks are the only ones that crash and could still win a competition. If you crash, you screwed up. You made a mistake. I don't care what anybody says. and sometimes there's quote unquote saves that aren't nothing but a crash that ended up luckily
that was
the truck back on those
Yeah.
tires.
it was a bad job of crashing that wound up lucky.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's, I try our best to build tracks that are going to put drivers out there, and so that they have to creatively think about what they're going to do to win the freestyle. You not just go out there and, throw it all out and see what sticks. Now, I want them to actually think about what they're doing and put together a run. And, stuff's still going to happen. Crashes are still going to happen. Saves are still going to happen. Accidents are still going to happen. But you try to not really award the ones that just go out there and just don't give a damn,
How much of the don't give a damn freestyle events or freestyle performances, not events, freestyle performances, are a form of elitism in the sense that they can afford the checkbook slam?
A lot, probably 98%. The very few guys that are still left out there that can go out there and not really care, but also not really be able to afford to fix what they screw up. Tom Mentz in his early days was definitely the main dude for that. Like, Tom has always driven the way that he drives. It didn't matter when he owned his stuff. Dennis Anderson too, but those were different times back then. You could show up to an event back then, and out of 8 trucks, 5 or 6 of them, maybe you didn't really have to worry about. They were guys that were going to go out there, kind of take it easy on their equipment, get a paycheck, load it up, go home. But then there's going to be a couple guys that you had to worry about. Now it's everybody. Now you got to worry about everybody. Everybody's got good equipment. Everybody's going out there to win at all costs. And that's, again, part of what, made me get out of it too, is just, I simply can't afford to go out there and just, don't give a damn. And just hopefully I win a $5 trophy that nobody's going to remember on Monday, So, but I will, because I'm trying to scrape together pennies to put the truck back together and staying up late. And, so there's a lot of guys now that don't need the trucks to make their living. They've got other businesses, and they go out and the truck is, if it gets tore up, it gets tore up. Yeah, they can get upset about it, but it's not going to completely ruin their checkbook for the next month.
Yeah. Chris Bergeron's local to me, and I knew him a little bit and kind of got to see behind the scenes on the business side of stuff and how hard he had to push. And he got to a point too where he's like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Wait, Bergeron?
Yeah. Yeah. He lives about,
way.
He lives about 15 miles from here.
Yeah. Brutus.
Yep.
And he even had a good job too. He's a plumber or an electrician or something like that.
Plumber. Yeah. Yep.
Huh. Small world. So, Joe, let me ask you this, especially since we know that monster trucks are bigger than we are as far as pulling goes. And with you knowing what you know about pulling in the monster truck world, what can we do to get ourselves to that level of exposure, in your opinion?
It comes down to showmanship. There's, as much as I don't like the way the competition aspect of our sport has kind of gone by the wayside, what is good about it is the showman side of it. The personalities, the names of the trucks, which you guys have names of tractors and stuff too. You gotta, the driver has to interact with the fans. And the fans need to be able to relate to the driver. There needs to be stories told. There needs to be people, just like in the early days of NASCAR, people had their favorite driver. They didn't care what the sponsor was, or, maybe they cared if it was Ford or Chevy or Dodge, but they had a favorite driver because they felt like they could relate to that driver and that driver's personality, background, whatever it was. If everybody's vanilla, then you don't create that fan base. You don't create those people that are going to come to the show every single year and buy the shirts, pay every bit of money they have for a ticket because they know they're going to go see their favorite driver.
Right.
And that's also kind of also been removed from our sport where the trucks have become bigger than the driver. Nobody can relate to the truck. The truck is an inanimate object. It has no person. It has a cool paint job and stuff like that. But people want to know the drivers. People want to know who is behind building the truck, driving the truck, and what their personality is, and how they interact with people. So that portion of our sport is, in my opinion, starting to tarnish it. And it's also, there's so many promoters that are tailoring the way they market their shows, and as well as, the trucks themselves are being tailored towards little kids. And it doesn't matter if you go out there and you do backflips and burn it down and everything. If your core demographic that you're marketing to is a very young kid that thinks it's cool when the motor fires up and you crush a car into a donut because the truck looks like a puppy dog, that's also deterring big sponsors from getting involved in the sport, in my opinion. So I think there needs to be a balance between, appealing to a larger age range, and there needs to be a balance between the competition and the show. When I was racing, I always took what I learned from being a showman in monster trucks and I applied it to off-road racing, sprint car racing, and I tried to have cool looking merchandise. I tried to interact with fans. When fans would come up and want to talk before the race, I would make sure I gave them my time. That's all important. NHRA is actually probably the prime example, in my opinion, of how to create a long-term fan base. Those are some of the most dedicated and loyal fans. They go year after year. They've got their favorite drivers. Every year they buy the newest t-shirt from their favorite driver, and they have a good time, So I think that NHRA has done a great job, and all the drivers in NHRA have done a great job as to really, create those long-term fans. And they're still selling out venues. Not all monster truck events are selling out. Not all tractor pull events are selling out. NHRA sure is. NASCAR sure as hell isn't, because they've gone so far into the corporate world that they've totally alienated their core demographic of people that got the sport where it is. And now those people are like, I can't relate to these drivers or these sponsors, or what the hell is a playoff? What do they do? Like, they're not playing a game here. They're racing cars. Like, what is the different stages and all that? It's too confusing. Like, just let the guys race. They choke the cars down and try to create parity. It's professional motorsports. It's not supposed to be cheap. Okay, you don't need to make all the cars the same. Open them up a little bit. Allow the crews and the drivers to have a little bit more creativity, so that it doesn't look like slot car racing. So, and that's what fans want to see. They want to see like what they could see at the dirt track on a Saturday night, where you go and you watch a late model or a sprint car race, and there's tons of excitement and tons of passing going on. And, the races are much shorter, but, I feel like NASCAR is totally just keeps going off in the direction that's pushing a lot of people away. I was a big NASCAR fan growing up, and I like the cars. I respect the drivers as professional athletes and what they do and what they're capable of and how they can handle a car at 200 miles an hour, and just the way the air's moving when they're going that fast, and how they can not completely wreck each other every time out. There's something to be said about that. However, the racing itself is not appealing to the people that I think really want to go see automobile racing, and that's why short tracks are getting big crowds of people.
This is a man after my own heart. Thank you that it's not just me saying it tonight.
I think if you interviewed a lot of people would say the same thing.
There's a lot of people who do say it. You're right.
You're kind of saying along the lines, you're in NASCAR only, not like only, but they're kind of taking the driver and the crew out of it. They're like, you're not actually letting the driver do what they can do and whoop somebody.
Well, it's also very difficult for the fans to have access to drivers in NASCAR. NHRA, everybody could go through the pits, watch them working on the cars. Yeah, you couldn't be in the hot pits during a NASCAR race, but I feel like there's probably something they can do before the race starts, to allow a little bit more fan engagement, so the fan can feel vested into what they're watching so that they don't just pay a bunch of money to park their car, pay a bunch of money for their ticket, pay a bunch of money for a crappy sandwich and a popcorn, and then go sit in the stands and watch a race. You got to give them more than that.
You can get within, 10 feet of a car being warmed up. You can take the 1,000-foot track walk and be out there on the surface. Yeah, you're probably not going to get into the staging lanes. There's insurance reasons for that, and I get that, and that's fine. But, it doesn't take a whole lot to get even behind the barriers in a pro pit. Like if you're friends with somebody, like I know somebody who's a fabricator for a Top Fuel team. And at Norwalk, yeah, did I get behind the barriers and get my face in somebody's Top Fuel car? Bet I did. And it was because of him, but it wasn't that difficult. I didn't have to pay anything extra to make that happen. Forged a relationship. That's all it was. And I'm not going to say that anybody else can't do that. You can.
Right. Yep. Joey, I have one more question for you, man. We've already taken up an hour of your time. Are you at liberty to say where the truck went? Even though I kind of have a feeling I know where it went.
They haven't disclosed it yet. They haven't made it public, but I think within the next couple of weeks they are. And they've asked me to not say anything yet. So I'm not quite sure what they're planning on revealing, but I will say that it's gone to a good home. It's gone to somebody that's going to take proper care of it and somebody that's definitely going to drive it to its fullest potential.
I think I know who it is.
So I still have the name. The name didn't go.
Do you? Good.
Yeah. No, the name
really
didn't go.
Good.
I still have the name. I'm still the one and only person that has ever driven Bad Habit and probably ever will be, unless I have a son or a daughter one day that decides they want to get into monster trucks. Then maybe we'll have a rebirth of the name.
Fun what happens when you get kids. I'm just saying it's fun when it happens.
Yeah. Seems like that there's been a lot of guys that bought up monster trucks kind of in bulk this year.
That goes back to guys that have really good businesses and now they're like, okay, I want to go play now. And
there's one in particular that has a towing business that they have snatched up every iconic name that I can possibly think of.
Yeah, that's James Trantina that owns Triple B Motorsports. They actually 4 of their trucks run in with my Outlaw Drag Series: Barefoot, Monster Patrol, Rampage, and USA 1. Yeah, I mean, James had a dream to own a dynamite packed house team, and he bought everything that Paul Schaefer had. Paul Schaefer owned several names for many, many years, and a lot of trucks. James bought them all. Bought all the trucks, bought all the names. All parts. And then he bought up a whole bunch of other trucks too. And then he's running the old school names on these new trucks. And he still has all the old school trucks that Paul had, but they're just kind of chilling in the shop.
Yeah, that has been the guy, because I've really kind of made a point to keep up more of the independent side of monster trucks. And boy, when you type that in, that's probably the first thing that pops up right now.
Yeah, he's got a hell of an empire he's building over there. And he actually just made some moves with his towing business that I believe makes him the largest towing business in America.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's in Minnesota.
Yeah. I mean, guys that don't know, the USA 1, I think he's got Carolina Crusher, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Rampage, does he have Barefoot?
Barefoot, Boogie Van, Captain USA.
He has the Boogie Van.
Oh yeah. I know they want to debut that pretty soon too. I think they were trying to figure out where they can get a body made at, but that'll be a cool one to come back, But no, I can't even remember all the names.
Quad Chaos, I think.
He did, yeah. He bought the Quad Chaos name from Jerry, just the name. Didn't buy any trucks from Jerry, just bought the name.
Yeah. Ice Cream Man.
He did. He bought that too. Yep, from JR.
Now, how did he acquire that one? Was that an independent truck before it was in Amsterdam?
Well, it always was an independent truck.
Okay.
Yeah, JR McNeil out of Florida from Raising Cane. Owned.
Is he still driving it all? I haven't seen.
No, he actually. I think James pretty much bought all of JR's stuff, as far as I know. But JR kept the Raising Cane name. And from what I've heard, they're looking to make a comeback in 2025, I think, from just what I've gathered on social media. I haven't talked to JR for a little while, but I think they're looking to build some new trucks and come back in a couple of years.
Man, if it looks anything like his white Raising Cane did with the blue lettering on it, We know they're gonna have slick looking stuff coming out of their
Yeah.
camp.
Yeah, he always does. He always does a good job.
Yeah. Well, Joe, thank you so much for your time tonight, dude, for coming on
problem.
with us. You're our first motorsports guest we've really had on for this show. I mean, we're kind of getting into the point of our seasons where stuff is kind of winding down. So we really appreciate you coming on with us tonight.
Yeah, no problem. Is there any questions that you guys wanted to take from anybody watching? Or
somebody texted me, and they're going back to the safety part of it. And this might be a quick answer, but with the head restraint with like glasses, how do they deal with that? Is it like contacts they have to wear, or is there like legal reasons they have to wear different stuff, or
what do you mean different classes?
Like different, like the glasses that they have to wear for prescription
to see when you drive. Like,
I don't know much about actual like glasses. I mean, if you have to wear some sort of eye protection, if you're in a motorsport where your face can get hit with something, roost from another car, or in case of monster trucks, any type of debris from the track or cars or something like that. But as far as like any prescription eyewear, that's up to the driver if they need prescription eyewear.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. I think everybody's just enjoying watching, and we're pretty much answering any of the questions that we or they had, either one, because whenever you and Charles took off, you hit a lot of the points that I had that I wanted to break off pretty quickly. So once again, man, thank you so much, and stay in touch. If you ever want to jump on with us again, just to come in here and chat or whatever's on your mind, just feel free.
Stay in touch on social media, man.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, brother.
Promote yourself. Thanks, what's your before I let you go? Promote your social media. How do people engage with you?
Give your plug.
Joe Sylvester 8 on Instagram and Facebook.
And you got YouTube at all?
Number 8. I do have a YouTube as well. It's My Monster Life, but I believe it's just YouTube / Joe Sylvester or Joe Sylvester 8.
Yeah.
I haven't had time to do much with it lately. We did have a pretty good run during the first quarter of the year. We were really staying on top of it. And I had my crew guy was really helping me a lot at the time. But I just, now I'm just myself. I don't have a whole lot of time to mess with it. Actually, my mountain bike stuff was actually getting more traction than the monster truck stuff was. So I might fire the YouTube back up and just make it about bikes.
Put a GoPro. I've been sucked into the wormhole so many times. Put a GoPro on your helmet and just go ride anything. And like, I don't know why, like it engages with me. I'll sit there and watch it. So
people want to see before they drive somewhere and go ride somewhere. They want to see what it looks like first. So that's why those kind of videos get so much attention. I had one where my drone guy who does all my drone stuff with the monster truck came and followed me through the mountain bike trails while we were in Florida. That's on one of my YouTube videos. He's just following right behind me in the trails.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Do that, man. If it works, it works.
Yeah,
no doubt. All right, guys.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Wow,
that was cool.
That was fun.
That got going.
Yeah. I knew he was going to be a good interview because him and I have texted back and forth about so many of the things that we've talked about. I knew that was going to be fun. But I've got to say, we could have a trio of guests coming on pretty soon from the pulling world. That's going to be a lot of fun too.
I think what he said about the safety part of it, and then there's a couple things that I took away from it. The safety part of it, I think, Charles, with your question too, with the neck restraint, I think we could do stuff better.
I drilled on it for a reason, and I hope people listened because it's been something that's been on my mind, and I've made posts about it going back a couple of years. And my record is very clear on what I think about that. It needs to be better, and I'm disappointed that the sanctioning bodies have not pushed the sort of stuff that he's got in his truck, because I really think it would save a lot of people a lot of grief.
There's a few classes that come right to mind when he was talking about that.
Minis immediately.
They're one.
They're one. But they're not the only one.
No.
It's in case what happened, 5 miles from my house at Farlow, Steve Bunnage right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
I agree.
So,
but
and then the second thing I think was what he said about the driver interaction and how to promote yourself.
yeah,
That
we've got
was
to do
also
a better
very,
job of
very
that.
important. Very
Yeah,
important.
we as drivers have got to do better at interacting with our fans. You know,
I've got to do a better job as a person within the sport as well. Like I tend to like nerd on tractors, trucks, cars, tech. Like that's where my head goes to, and I want to highlight that. And in my announcing style, it comes out like my technological enthusiasm.
Mhm.
I do a very bad job of promoting the person behind that and talking about their story. And when we have downtime for whether it's for a class change or if it's on the drag strip, we got an oil down, grabbing these people and having some interview time when there's nothing else going on to expose them as a person. I'm very bad at that. That's a spot where I need to learn and to be better and elevate the person to match what I'm already doing for the vehicle.
Right.
I need to learn that.
It's just in time type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
it means me also stepping outside my comfort zone, to be honest.
Yeah. Me too.
Like I can regress and be Chuck the nerd, and that's easy. It's hard for me to go outside of Chuck the nerd. Like, all right, you built this, Joe Smith. Now talk to me about it. That's outside my comfort zone, and that's something I need to overcome and I need to be better about. And that's the lesson I took away from it, is that as someone who's on the front lines of doing that promotion, I can be better. I can do better.
Yeah. Gave me same indication from both sides of it, being a driver and an announcer. I mean, there's not times that whenever rally pulls during the summer that there's not anybody, it doesn't matter what age, that if they ask for an autograph, I see them being given all the time. But we've just got to do better ourselves at interacting with the fans during the poll.
I think that there's one driver that comes straight to mind when he said that. For me, it was Ryan DeBrew. I mean,
yes, he's very good at that. He's very good at that. Something I would challenge a lot of the drivers to do, and I see this a lot in tractor pulling world too. A lot of you guys are just like me. You're exceptionally shy, and you say, "Well, you're on this show. How can you do that?" I'm the classic extroverted introvert. Yeah, I can put on this mask that I'm an announcer. I can be a broadcaster. I can do all this stuff. But it rude. I'm a very shy person. I'm very, very private. In a one-on-one conversation, I'll tell you anything you want to know. It's when we click these things on that there's that tendency to clam up. And I would encourage you guys to to crash through the barrier with me and engage with me and understand that we're both coming from the same place. Like we're both shy. Okay, I'm not going to ask you anything hard. I'm not going to ask you anything you don't know the answer to. I'm not going to ask you a question that's going to embarrass you. I'm asking you to educate the people that don't know about your story and champion you and give you that spotlight, as bright and as difficult as that is for you to accept, and it still is for me. Just open up for a second and take the nerve toss. Accept the easy question and say, okay, here's what I'm doing, and engage with those fans and let that be that one time where Johnny Small, who's paid his ticket to sit in that stand, has no idea who you are but likes you. That's his entry to understand who you are as a person and as a competitor. We can all do it. It's tough for me. It's gonna be tough for you. Let's let that be a contract between me and all you competitors in 2024 that we're working on, and we can do this together.
And Charles, that was something whenever we were in Shipshawana last year, you really honed in on. I was really nervous about getting on the mic to begin with, but you really brought me out, and by Friday night, Saturday night, I was ready to go. I wasn't nervous to do it anymore because of what you did and showing the story and all that kind of stuff.
It's hard. I'm not going to say it's easy. It's tough to do. It's tough to do.
I have a total new respect for announcing now that I've done it a little bit more. It's hard. It's a hard job to do.
It's even harder when you say something wrong. And not to
exactly.
get all sidetracked about it, but like, I mean, there's times where you got to swallow the pride and be like, I
was wrong.
I goofed that up. Sorry.
Yeah.
I got that
One
wrong.
little bit of news that we can't leave here without talking about was the move of Larry Richwine over to PPL.
Yep.
I thought that was a really, really good pickup for the Propylene League. With them coming out of their first year, and then John and Christy, I'm sure, running themselves ragged, going all over the country with as many events as they had this year, and bringing in Larry, I think that's going to be really, really good for them.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm excited for it.
It just builds a team of 2 to a team of 3.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just
and kudos to John and Christy for everything that they did this year. They ran their butts off all over the United States this year with events, whether they had Champions Tour events, Silver Series Midwest, or just going to some of the state organizations and going to their pools.
They were present. They were
there. It didn't matter. It was so awesome to see. I mean, you can tell
present and they were consistent.
yeah. Very.
That's exactly
You know,
right.
There was OSTPA events I went to this year where I felt they weren't there, but I felt their presence. It came through in my interactions and drivers meetings and what we had to do is, what I had to do, I guess, as media. There was a consistency of engagement there. Yeah, absolutely. Kudos to them.
Yeah.
They did a great job.
It was awesome. But we are wrapping up motorsports seasons as a whole. I think Diesels and Dark Corners is it next weekend or the next?
I think it's this week. I believe.
I think it's
It's next weekend.
Is
Because
it
next weekend.
it's October.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch that one.
The world melts down next weekend. Holy smokes!
Yeah, well, we got going on next weekend besides that.
You've got
Is Vegas this weekend?
Diesels and Dark. Well, so next weekend's Diesels and Dark Corners.
I'm going to be
got-
watching that. I've been waiting for that to be live streamed.
You've got everything that's going to go on with King of the Streets in Delaware.
Yep.
You've got Haltech World Cup final, import versus domestic at Maryland International Raceway.
That is a bucket list race to go to.
You aren't kidding, dude. You are not kidding.
My middle brother mentioned something about that.
10,000%. I want to go to that. Yeah, Apex is going to have a massive presence there, and well, they should. I mean, they are killing it in that market, and it's awesome.
They are.
I want to go to that so bad.
Yeah.
Oh,
Is there anything
atmosphere has just got to be unbelievable.
Yeah. Is there anything coming up for any other pools that we need to mention right now up front, or do we need to hold off?
California is the only thing I can think of. Gold State Invitational.
Gold State Invitational.
That's about it.
Yeah. Of course, you have Shipshawana coming up in January.
Yep.
Injuries are looking good. Looking real good.
Except for, and I'm gonna use this platform if I could for a minute. You light limited super stock guys, you gotta understand something. A lot of you guys, like, you want to pull super lightweight, you want to be 6,000 pounds, you want to be 500 pounds. If you want to just go out there and just crash your shit, go ahead and do it outdoors.
Not indoors.
Don't do it inside.
Please.
We're trying to run a very tight ship. We're trying to do something that's really quick and just go. We want to have a good program. We want you to be under control. We've taken care of the turbocharger situation versus the diesels, who they themselves are just as wild. We wanted to have a program where you guys are competitive with one another, but it means you're going to have to get your lazy butts out and pick up a suitcase weight and slam it on that chassis and go have some fun. That's what we're offering to you. You're not going to get it. You're not going to get to Louisville. Okay. Like, just that's off the table. This is your Louisville. We're offering it to you. Do something, come out and have a great time. Clint has been excellent over the years about equating different styles of pulling in different classes and whatever. And light limited super stock is no different. We're offering you that opportunity to come out and showcase you. This is for you. We want you
and
guys.
It's still changing every year too.
It's ever changing. It's never been the same year after year. This year's different again. In light of better knowledge and better understanding of what the event is We want to be safe. We want to be quick. We want to be efficient. We don't want you to be wild. We don't want you to be out of control. We want you to be safe and competitive with one another. And we think we've got a rule book where we can do that. The next class I want to bring to attention is 3.6 diesel trucks. This is another opportunity for you guys to showcase yourselves under the roof. And right now, I think we've got
two. And one of them from down here by me.
Two. And I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I have always lived as a tractor guy, but let's be honest, I'm a truck guy. That's my world. You guys are my guys. I've lived in that world. I've worked for those suppliers. I understand what it's all about, and I understand you guys very, very well. There's 2 of you signed up. If that doesn't change, we're blowing you out, and we're going to split the 510 hot farms into 4 flights instead of 3. It's on you. It's on you guys to take advantage of the stage that you've been provided and do something with it. If you don't, you're opening the door for somebody else. That's just all there is to it.
Yeah.
There's events like the Wagler Fall. There's events like Scheid. There's a whole host of events that do very well. We're giving you a chance to put the Skyjacker pipe on and come inside and have some fun. We want you there. We do want you there. I want you there.
Dude, there's so many of you guys.
I'm the guy on the mic. I'm the guy who's going to talk about you. I'm going to say good things about you. Yeah. I'm going to champion your cause. I'm going to cheerlead for you. I'm giving you this platform, but if you don't hurry up and get on the website and get registered, we're no choice. We're going to be left with no choice, and we're going to have to make a different choice, and it's going to be adverse for you guys as a class because you're just not supporting it. I don't know what the objection is. The rules are the same, other than having to put an indoor pipe on. It's your class, and you get a 300-foot track indoor to showcase yourselves. I don't know what the deal is there with you guys and why you don't want to support that. So please come. I want seriously. You. Yes. I absolutely want you.
But did you say 3 flights instead of 4 on the hot farms?
And we're at that point with the amount of entry to instead of take 3 flights, make it 4 and split it down better for a final because they actually care about being at this event.
Is it 75 yet?
I think
it's 70.
It's close there. I think it
feels like Superforms and Bowling Green all over again.
But that's just it. Like you guys have a compelling class. 3.6 trucks fucking rule.
Yeah.
I really enjoy them. You guys would do a good job. And there's a ton of cool ass trucks out there that really could be a part of this thing. There's some guys who've become household names out of this show, out of that class in the past that are not signed up. So I don't know where the objection is. If you've got an issue,
call somebody.
Get a hold of me. I don't care. 586-405-4471. Give me a call. Get a hold of me through Facebook, whatever. Most of you know who I am and are friends with me. Whatever, just shoot me a message. You want to be off the record? I don't care. If there's some feedback you want to give to Clint and the people putting the show on without your name attached to it, I'm happy to do that. I don't care. It's not. There's nothing personal there. I want to make a show. I'm got to be there. Who's got to be the one standing there holding the microphone and talk about y'all? If I got nobody to talk about, well, then what am I doing? So we can always do better. And so I'm encouraging you guys. Please, get a hold of me if there's a thing.
Yeah. Get a hold of any of the 3 of us. I mean, honestly, any of the 3 of us. I mean, we all 3 of us text back and forth at least once or twice a day. Your message will get across to whoever it needs to go to, I promise.
We've got connections.
Yep. But boys, we have gone way over time.
That don't matter.
I think we got a race
to cover, for God's sakes.
How much of it is there?
Well, I don't know.
Even asleep this week?
There's a new freaking title sponsor, NHRA, for next year.
Well, yeah, go over that real fast. But after that,
for starters.
That's for starters.
We need to an hour and a half. We need to balance.
There's people like racing. I think we're okay. Charles, you want to take the reins on that, or you just want me to kind of go cover a little bit of it, or?
Go for it, and I'll just come in behind you. Go for it.
I don't know. All I can say is a mission right off the bat is like taking the bull by the horns when it comes to sponsorship of the NHRA and just like ran with it. The amount of support they've given the racing industry so far, and like with Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge this year, like was a big hit, and then them coming on as a new title sponsor is just going to make it even better. And then Camping World, no, they're not the title sponsor, but they're right there with it. They're still going to be supporting the NHRA as much as they want to. They're just not the title sponsor. They're still there.
Correct. And Mission will still continue the race within a race on Saturdays with a Too Fast, Too Tasty challenge.
I think that just brings a lot more, I'm not going to say drama, but it brings a lot more excitement to the races too. It's like, yes, it's qualifying, but you're competing for a little bit more.
If you like Mexican food, you know what you're buying now. You're buying Mission. Yeah, Mission chips. You're buying the Mission tortillas. They're a $1 billion foodstuffs company, and they've got a lot of other options as well within that space. I mean, you got to be involved.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I ain't seen that one. Cool.
I forgot that Justin Bond has an egg business there in Canada. I did hear it. I was listening to his interview on Shake and Bake with Stevie Fast and them, and it kind of shocked me because I didn't know how many people in the racing world were actually in the egg industry.
Oh yeah.
Oh, big time!
Hudson, the John Deere dealer, has
go get a dirt car race and see how many times you see on the side of a race car the word X and such farms.
Well, dirt track.
H&R, we have one that we sponsored. One of our guys races on the, I don't want to say local dirt late circuit, but he has our company name on his car.
And drag racing has its share of farmers too.
Yeah, exactly.
Matt Hagen sometimes.
Yeah.
Not gonna say it.
What else we got?
All I could say is what in the absolute shit is happening with the NHRA point season right now?
Garbage, because I hate the goddamn chase or whatever the hell you're going to count the clown down. Bullshit.
I know.
We're not going to go there.
Pomona's just going to get even freaking worse because that's points.
Double points.
And I'm a duck.
Yeah, Andy Scruggs Farms.
Yeah.
A red Camaro and Pro Mod.
Pro Mod's going to have a huge turnout for Vegas because Steve Fast is going to have one besides him tuning Sidney Frigo's car.
Yeah, he's finally able to strap in again. Thank God.
Yeah, no kidding.
And then Mason Wright's going to be racing. I don't know. I don't think Lyle Barnett's going to be racing, but he was helping Mason tune or test the other day.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Lyle's going to be back or not. Then that's another guy who needs to be back in a Pro Mod pad.
There's a lot of drivers out there I wish were just driving in general. I mean, first one comes to mind is Tommy Johnson Jr. and anything nitro.
Tommy will be driving a nitro car. He's going to Australia. He's driving a nitro funny car all winter.
Really?
Yeah, he's going to Australia. He's going to be running all winter.
That's going to be cool.
Yep.
It's going to be cool to see Spencer Hyde going from Pro Mod to Top Fuel in Pomona. That's going to be quite interesting to see.
Ooh. Here's another one.
I'm not sure, Andy, that's right. Stevie was they were doing tire testing at Ferris, Texas. They were not at Vegas.
Here's another one for you. Syngenta's not the title sponsor for Farm Show this year.
Yes. We have a new
Farm
sponsor,
Credit?
Farm Credit Mid-America, and Syngenta is out.
Ever since I think I was born, they were the sponsor. It's crazy.
When were you born?
2000.
I'm trying to think when Zeneca became Syngenta. You might be right.
Ever since I can remember, anyway.
Old. Jesus.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are.
I'm not going to say what I was going to say.
I call you our senior advisor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, boys. We got anything else on our minds?
Oh, can I rant for a second?
Depends on what it's about.
I'm just going to say if you're out there and you solely want someone to fail just because we do something different, don't do it. It's just
I know.
If you're gonna like act upon somebody negatively and want them just to fail because you want them to, That doesn't make you look good. It doesn't make the world of motorsports look good. I don't care if it's racing, pulling, dirt track, monster trucks, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yep. Agreed.
I agree. It's absolutely dumb to think like that.
Anyway, Charles, you ready for a sidetrack tomorrow night?
I'm ready. Jeff
Yeah,
Wallace,
we
to
got-
answer your question, yes, I will be at PRI. I'll be hosting on Friday night the Outlaw Diesel Super Series end of season points banquet, and then I'll be on the floor Saturday everywhere I can possibly get to.
Jeff, I don't know yet. I kind of sort of doubt it, but maybe.
I'm thinking about it. I don't know.
With the amount of time I've got to be gone a little bit later.
I've got college, so.
Yep. Anyway. Yep, we will see you guys, let's see, a week from, or not next week, because Chase and them are on. So we'll see you guys November the 8th. We might be going up to the northern part of the states for our next guest, because I talked to them tonight and they seem pretty awesome on doing it. So we'll see.
Anyway,
To answer your question, what is the main point is sidetrack tomorrow night? We're going to take your little mini rant there and we're going to amplify the living shit out of that.
Ooh. Goody.
Yep.
If you need me to say my piece, I will say it again, even worse. Because I don't know if we want to go off the trail here. So, anyways. All right.
Adios, boys.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody, for jumping in. See you.
See you.